Your genuine emotional independence and ability to thrive without validation or constant companionship creates deep psychological terror in avoidance because it threatens their entire worldview and defensive system. They built their identity around being the strong, independent one, while secretly depending on others to need them, validate them, and organize their emotional worlds around them. Your authentic self-sufficiency exposes their emotional dependency, while proving their superiority complex was built on lies. You threaten their position as the independent one. Avoidants derive their sense of specialness and superiority from being the person who needs no one, while others need them. Your genuine independence destroys this dynamic by proving that some people actually possess the emotional self-sufficiency they only pretend to have. This positional threat creates existential crisis because their entire identity depends on being more emotionally evolved than the people who pursue them. If you don't need them or anyone else, they lose their psychological advantage and have to compete on equal footing. Your independence forces them to confront that their aloofness isn't sophisticated emotional management, but defensive patterns masquerading as strength. They see in you what real independence looks like compared to their performed version. You expose their hidden emotional neediness. Your ability to function happily without constant validation or companionship highlights how much they actually depend on others for emotional regulation, ego feeding, and psychological stability. Your independence makes their neediness glaringly obvious by comparison. This exposure terrifies them because it reveals they're not the emotionally superior beings they've convinced themselves they are. They're actually needier than most people, but have developed elaborate systems for getting their needs met indirectly. Your self-sufficiency serves as a mirror that reflects their true emotional poverty and dependency, forcing them to see that their claims of independence were projection designed to hide their desperate need for others to need them. You don't feed their ego or validate their specialness. Avoidants depend on others treating them as mysterious, fascinating, and worth pursuing to maintain their sense of importance and desirability. Your indifference to their specialness creates psychological crisis because you don't provide the ego feeding their self-worth depends on. This validation withdrawal terrifies them because they discover their confidence was built on others' pursuit and admiration rather than genuine self-worth. Without your validation of their desirability, they feel ordinary and unremarkable. Your independence means you don't need them to feel complete, which eliminates their primary source of feeling valuable and important. They can't use their usual tactics to make you dependent on their attention or approval. You prove their manipulation tactics are unnecessary. Your emotional independence demonstrates that healthy people don't need the elaborate manipulation strategies avoidants use to manage relationships. You show them what genuine strength looks like compared to their defensive posturing and control tactics. This proof terrifies them because it suggests their entire approach to relationships is dysfunctional rather than sophisticated. You navigate life and love without the games, strategies, and emotional warfare they consider essential for psychological survival. Your independence forces them to question whether their complex defensive systems are actually protecting them or preventing them from experiencing the genuine confidence and peace that comes with authentic self-reliance. You challenge their worldview about human nature. Avoidants believe that all humans are fundamentally needy, dependent, and desperate for validation because this belief justifies their own hidden neediness while allowing them to feel superior. Your independence shatters this worldview completely. This philosophical threat creates terror because if some people genuinely don't need others for emotional completion, then their entire understanding of human psychology is wrong. They have to reconsider everything they believe about relationships and emotional health. Your existence proves that emotional independence is possible without the elaborate defensive strategies they've relied on, forcing them to confront that their patterns might be symptoms of dysfunction rather than signs of evolution. You remove their sense of power and control. Avoidance maintains psychological equilibrium through feeling powerful and in control of relationship dynamics. Your independence eliminates their ability to manipulate outcomes because you don't need anything from them that could be withheld or used as leverage. This power removal terrifies them because they've never learned to function in relationships without control mechanisms. They don't know how to connect authentically without managing the other person's emotional investment and dependency levels. Your independence forces them into unfamiliar territory where they have to offer genuine value rather than manufactured scarcity to maintain someone's interest, which requires skills they've never developed. You show them what they're missing. Your peaceful existence without constant relationship drama, emotional turmoil, or desperate pursuit of others shows avoidance what life could be like if they developed genuine emotional health instead of defensive patterns disguised as strength. This vision terrifies them because it reveals how much energy they waste on managing their image, controlling others, and avoiding vulnerability that you've learned to navigate naturally. They see the peace they could have, but don't know how to achieve. Your independence demonstrates that emotional freedom is possible without the isolation and defensiveness they've convinced themselves are necessary for psychological safety. You force them to compete on merit. With someone who doesn't need them, avoidance can't rely on creating dependency or manufacturing emotional drama to maintain interest. They have to actually be worth choosing rather than worth needing, which requires qualities they haven't developed. This merit-based competition terrifies them because they've built their relationship strategy around being needed rather than being valuable. They don't know how to attract someone who already feels complete without them. Your independence means they have to offer genuine compatibility, emotional maturity, and authentic connection rather than psychological games and artificial scarcity to maintain your interest. You represent their potential for growth. Your independence shows avoidance what they could become if they did their emotional work and learned to exist peacefully, without constant external validation and control over others. You're living proof of their untapped potential. This growth possibility terrifies them because achieving genuine independence would require abandoning all their defensive strategies and facing the wounds that created their patterns. You represent the person they could be but are too afraid to become. You mirror their deepest fear. Your independence reflects their deepest terror, that they might have to learn to love themselves and find peace within their own company, rather than deriving worth from others' need for them. You not needing anyone scares avoidance because you prove that their entire identity as the independent one was performance, that genuine emotional freedom is possible without their defensive strategies, and that some people have achieved what they've only pretended to possess, authentic self-sufficiency that doesn't require others to be weak to feel strong.